Hello, everybody. Welcome to a new webinar brought to you, of course, by Solarplaza, this time in collaboration with Lightsource BP. Let's have a huge round of applause in front of your own laptops so we warm up. Yes? Perfect. Don't think that I cannot hear you. Of course, I cannot see you, and I know that you are logging in from all across Europe, but you can trust that I sense your celebratory energy and appreciate it, and appreciate you for showing up and for supporting us. Um, First of all, I would also want to congratulate you for being here on time. We are still waiting for a few more people to join and sign up for this webinar. But because I don't want to keep you waiting, I am just going to tell you a bit about Solarplaza in the beginning. And then in a few minutes, in 2-3 minutes, I'm going to introduce you to our wonderful speaker for today, who is Francesca Piazza. But before doing that, I am very happy to tell you a bit more about who we are as Solarplaza. We, as some of you might know, we are based in Rotterdam and established in 2004. We are very proud of the year that we were established in, since it's a long time away. We've already organized roughly 250 plus events in over 50 countries worldwide. We boast a network of solar, PV, and other renewables professionals of more than 60,000 people. And in case you are not in our community, well, you can be the next person to join it. So yeah, check the website and see how that fits your profile and your objectives. Here we are. We are actually in this webinar, and we are going to talk a lot about innovative structures and hybrid PPAs. We are going to dismantle PPA as a buzzword and actually add a lot of practical meaning to it. So, of course, after my well, how should I say, non-specific webinar intro, we're going to dive into the very specific presentation by Francesca as promised. And of course, we are keeping an eye out for questions from your side, and we are going to have a general Q&A at the end. So yes, feel free, don't be shy, and use the question mark tab, which is over there, top right of your screen. Input your questions at any time. We will note them, and we will most likely address them at the end of the session, so not to stop the presentation, but we will address as many questions as we can, and we're looking forward to having a lot of questions from your side. Also, next to the questions tab, you have the chat box. Please feel free to use that if you have technical issues. Like if you can't hear me, of course, if you can't hear me, you won't, know to use the chat box for saying that. But yeah, if you have technical issues, use the chat box and our support team will help you out, definitely. Since more people are joining, but I feel that we still have a bit of potential left, I am just going to quickly present to you 3 of our upcoming events that are organized in Iberia, France, and Italy. And because we care so much about you attending our webinars, we have, of course, a very special offer for you. In case you want to attend any of these 3 upcoming events, please scan the QR code or just take a photo and use this discount code to buy your tickets. Of course, if you're attending, you are also going to receive the slides, so maybe you don't actually need to take a photo, but it still would be nice to have a colorful reminder. All right, I think we're there, huh? We are there with participants and my time is already over. So once again, thank you all for joining and welcome to this wonderful webinar where we will be talking about contracting renewables for the future with a special outlook on innovative structure and hybrid PPAs. And because we do want to bring the best experts that are available to tell you about this topic, it is my pleasure to now introduce you to the wonderful Francesca Piazza. She is going to be our speaker for the next 40 minutes, but she is also Director of Power Markets Europe at Lightsource BP. She has over 10 years of experience in the energy industry, so she has a very deep knowledge and a very strategic approach to her role. She is responsible for identifying market opportunities and for creating business models that maximize value for solar and storage projects across EMEA region for Lightsource BP. And she has also definitely contributed to securing a total of 1.3 gigawatts of PPAs, if I'm not mistaken, across Europe, the Americas, and APAC. And all this last year. So all this success is very fresh. So if you think that Francesca is the best person to take us forward, I personally think that she is the best person to take us forward. So let's have another round of, you would think silent, but I would say very loud applause and welcome her on our virtual stage, Francesca.
So thank you, Victor, for the introduction, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining today. It's great to have you all here. So let me see if I can move the presentation. It looks like a no. Victor, can you grant me access to the presentation? Sorry. Okay, here we are.
All good?
You are presenting. I'm not sure I have control of the slides. Sorry.
Yep, you do.
Okay, great. Let me check that. Okay, perfect. Here we are. So our power markets team in Lightsource BP, as Victor said, focuses on defining the best route to market strategies and implementing solutions to stabilize revenues across the project. We operate and deliver in the EMEA region. So today's topic, contracting renewables for the future, is particularly relevant as we see the energy system in Europe facing unprecedented challenges and opportunities. But before we dive into that, I'd like to take a moment to introduce who we are at Lightsource BP and how we work globally. So Lightsource BP is a global leader in the renewable energy. Over the last 13 years, we have delivered almost 12 gigawatt of solar capacity worldwide. Today, we manage 60 gigawatt of development pipeline with presence in more than 20 markets. We are a fully integrated business. This means that across our projects, from early stage development to construction, operations and asset management, we manage the process in-house. And our teams cover everything from land acquisition, grid connection to permitting, financing, construction management, and operations. This full life cycle approach gives us a better control clearly over the risk, cost, and execution timelines, allowing us ultimately to deliver a more resilient projects and better value to our partners and off-takers. We originate and develop projects, structure the commercial contracts, including off-take agreements, and manage the long-term operational phase of our projects. And by doing this internally, we can clearly ensure that each asset is optimized, not just for the short term, but also for long-term performance and stability. At Lightsource BP, let me see if I can move my slide. Here we are. Sustainability is not just a commitment, so it's embedded in how we design, develop, and deliver solar energy. So our approach is built around 3 strategic pillars: environment, energy, and people. Let me briefly walk you through each of them. So first, we are committed to climate action. This means delivering renewable energy at scale and supporting the net zero goals of our customers, partners, and communities. We have set science-based targets to reduce our own emission, a 42% absolute reduction in Scope 1 and 2 emissions by 2030, based on a 2021 baseline, and a 52% reduction in Scope 3 emission per megawatt of capacity constructed by 2030. These targets help us guide our decision and ensure we are reducing our footprint across both operations and supply chain. Second, we focus on resource efficiency and circularity. So we are committed to ensuring that all our solar panels in our own assets are either reused or recycled at the end of their life cycle. We are also actively tracking and improving our waste footprint, ensuring our solar farms are not just clean sources not just clean sources of energy, but are clearly also example of responsible energy, responsible resource use. Third, we aim for biodiversity enhancement. So every ground-mounted solar project we deliver include a biodiversity management plan that is tailored to the characteristics clearly of each site. And where appropriate, we also integrate agrivoltaics, combining solar with agricultural activities, to ensure that the land continues to serve multiple purposes. In summary, Lightsource BP is delivering positive change through sustainable renewable energy, powering progress for people and the planet. But maybe now let's move to into the core of today's discussions and start to look at the Iberian market. Today, as we know, as energy security, price volatility, and the urgency of decarbonization all converge, power purchase agreements are not just longer a procurement tool, but they have become more strategic assets. So especially for corporate off-takers that are looking to manage energy cost, risk, and carbon footprint in an integrated way. Let's explore together the latest trend, including hybrid PPAs, innovative contracting structures, and few emerging models that are reshaping what is possible. So the PPA market in Southern Europe, particularly in Spain, Portugal, and Italy, is rapidly evolving. These countries offer clearly strong renewable resources, so solar and wind. As shown in the graph, Spain is on a clear and consistent trajectory toward hybrid capacity expansion through 2055. Solar takes the lead, followed by onshore wind, and by 2030 onward, we see also a notable increase in battery storage deployment. These evolving mix highlight clearly a growing need for integrated and flexible energy solutions. It presents also a compelling case for hybrid PPAs, which can ultimately help optimizing generation profiles, enhance grid stability, and support also revenue certainty. But given Spain's strong renewable resource base and supportive framework or policy environment, the country is very well positioned to lead into in the hybrid project development. This, as we said, is supported by a favorable regulatory framework, especially for corporate off-takers. So the 2030 National Energy and Climate Plan targets reflect this country's increased ambition to accelerate the energy transition, strengthening their energy independence and position themselves as leaders in the renewable energy integration in Europe. Spain and Portugal have also included storage targets in their national energy and climate plans to identify systems needs for greenfield project and hybridization of existing solar plants. So that's a very good example of proactive regulatory framework. These markets offer, as we all probably are aware, the most competitive economics in Europe, and for these reasons and what we just discussed, are very mature PPA markets. So in 2024 alone, over 360 long-term PPAs were signed, a 14% increase over the last year, so 2023. Spain continues to lead the European PPA market with more than 4 gigawatt contracted over last year. Portugal and Italy are also seeing a strong momentum, particularly in solar. And the combination of clearly resource availability, competitive terms, and improving regulation is creating an attractive environment for corporate procurement. In these countries, we're also seeing a growing demand from new players, such as data centers, industrial electrification, and the green hydrogen sector, particularly in Spain, all of which will drive even further the PPA activities. Of course, high penetration of variable renewable also brings some challenges, as we all know, such as increase in solar cannibalization and grid congestion. This is where storage and hybridization come into play. So the deployment of storage, both standalone and co-located, it's critical. It allows clearly for to smooth the generation profile, reduce the grid curtailment, and align generation more closely with the demand. To manage these risks, more sophisticated off-takers are emerging. So corporates that move beyond standard PPAs to more advanced procurement strategies. And they're typically combining technologies, timeframes, and even geographies to shape their portfolio more strategically. So let's now take a look at the hybrid PPAs. That it's a topic that is gaining traction across Europe. So a project is considered hybrid when it combines two or more energy generating or storing technologies that can be either co-located, meaning sharing the grid connection point, or fully integrated when those are operated also in a coordinated way to optimize the output. These structures offer several key benefits. First, they enhance the generation profile. So solar and wind, for example, have complementary profiles, as we can see from the graph on the right-hand side of the slide. Solar peaks during the day, especially in summer, while wind tends to generate more consistently, including at night and during the winter months. Second, when we add storage, we can go even further. So batteries can actually capture the surplus from solar or wind energy during times of low demand and discharge it when the system is tight due to scarce generation and higher demand. This clearly helps reducing renewable curtailment, smooth generation, and also increase the reliability of the supply. Third, and perhaps probably most importantly in Europe, hybridization allows for better utilization of existing grid infrastructure. So as grid congestion become more pressing challenge, especially in Southern Europe, hybrid projects help optimize available capacity and reduce the need for new infrastructure, delivering cost savings and faster deployment. From a contracting perspective, hybrid PPAs offer off-takers greater stability, flexibility, and value. The enhanced reliability position clearly hybrid systems as an attractive option for power purchase agreement and other revenue streams that require consistent baseload profile. So these structures can also be structured virtually, meaning the solar, wind, and storage assets are not necessarily co-located, but their output is basically bundled contractually. And this allows corporate buyers to receive smoother, more reliable profile without the complexity, clearly, of a physical hybrid development. That said, hybrid PPAs do involve also some construction complexity, as the technology clearly involved may have different timescales or permitting pathways. This is where actually working with an experienced developer is key to coordinating the delivery of the different components and ensuring long-term operational integration of services. At Lightsource BP, we are actively developing hybrid assets, and we are supporting off-takers in designing tailored solutions to meet their specific needs. So feel free to reach out in case you're looking to learn more about hybrid assets. So beyond hybrid models, we are seeing continued innovations in the way PPAs are structured, with new format that responds to the evolving needs of off-takers and realities of the energy transition. One of these multi-buyer purchase agreement, one of these is the multi-buyer power purchase agreement. This structure allows multiple companies to jointly purchase renewable electricity from a single or multiple projects. Each off-taker sign an individual PPA or enter into a shared framework agreement with some of the terms that are in the end tailored to their specific needs. This is especially relevant when no single off-taker is in the position to underwrite the full capacity of a large-scale utility project. There are clearly advantages in this structure. Access to scale is the first one. So clearly companies can participate in larger, as we said, utility scale projects. They might be otherwise too large or capital intensive for them to contract alone. Cost efficiency is another one. So each off-taker can tailor some of the contract terms, including volume, tenor, and pricing. And by pooling demand, off-takers can benefit from more competitive electricity price and reduced administrative and legal costs, as these are typically shared among all parties when it comes to working on defining the transaction. Market accessibility is key for these structures. So these structures are typically ideal for medium-sized companies or first-time PPA participants that are seeking a low-barrier path to renewable sourcing, as these allow us to contract a bigger project that might not be otherwise accessible. And through faster execution, clearly, and shared project enablement, this structure also supports quicker deployment of renewable capacity. Participating in multi-buyer PPA also sends a strong signal to the stakeholders. So brand can typically demonstrate climate leaderships, collaborations, and innovation in the sustainability. In a pioneering move, Lightsource BP collaborated with the Fashion Pact, a coalition of 12 leading fashion brands, to establish a collective virtual power purchase agreement. This innovative agreement enables these brands to collectively procure solar energy from one of our assets developed in Spain, facilitating clearly their transition to 100% renewable electricity in their operation by 2030. As we said, I mean, this model is particularly well suited for companies that are looking to engage across supply chains or industry alliances, for instance, when supplier, logistic partners, or peer in the same industry work together to decarbonize their operation in a coordinated way. This structure also allows for varied profile to align under a single project, making it a highly practical solution in a market that is actually increasingly clearly valuing both scale and agility. But let me now focus on a particularly innovative model we're actively exploring, one that is gaining momentum in Spain and increasingly relevant also across Southern Europe. This is the hybrid self-consumption scheme, which leveraged the grid connection rights secured for a utility-scale renewable plant to enable corporate behind-the-meter consumption, for example, of a data center or an industrial facility, so a demand, a consumption that is approaching the market. Under the Spanish regulation, when a renewable energy generator obtains a grid connection for the exporting energy for their renewable projects, they also unlock the possibility to use input capacity associated with that connection. typically up to 40, 50% of the export capacity, largely depending on clearly on the location and on the grid availability. This creates an opportunity as a portion of the renewable energy can be directly consumed by a corporate off-taker, either on-site or through the grid, without relying exclusively on a traditional PPA structure, such as a virtual one. This setup allows clearly developers and corporate consumers to bypass or mitigate grid congestion and permitting delays, which are often the major obstacles to building new connections for industrial users. And Lightsource BP can support this model in several practical ways. So first of all, clearly from site matching and feasibility analysis. So we would assess proximity, load profile compatibility, and the regulatory viability to match the industrial demand, for example, of a data center with the nearby renewable energy asset holding unused or available input-export rights to ensure that both clearly sides can benefit from the implementation of the model. From a contract structuring perspective, we have structured hybrid agreements that may include physical self-consumption through a private wire connection, as we said, or also a combined structure where part of the load is served by the self-consumption model and the rest through a PPA with any surplus supplied by the market. Then Lightsource BP clearly will deliver a fully financed, and it's very well positioned to deliver a fully financed ready-to-build solar and potentially increasingly hybrid projects. And depending on the scale, could consider co-investing for joint venture structure in order to enable faster deployment and a bankable energy delivery. This model is particularly valuable for energy-intensive operations, as we said, such as data centers and industrial cluster, where energy cost is critical and there is a strong push to meet sustainability targets. Another key benefit is that behind the meter PPAs can offer as off-taker clearly a reduction on the network charges, meaning that the transmission grid charges, typically the variable one, associated to the self-consumption share, are avoided. And this makes the model even more financially attractive to off-takers. Ultimately, this is a great example of using regulatory mechanisms and contractual innovation to overcome infrastructure bottlenecks. It connects clearly grid-connected generation with distributed energy consumption, unlocking new value for both the developer and the end user. So, in conclusion, as the energy landscape evolves, so must our contracting models. From hybrid PPAs to multi-buyer structures and self-consumption scheme, we are entering into a new era of corporate renewable sourcing, one that is smarter, more resilient, definitely, and more tailored to individual needs. At Lightsource BP, we are excited to work alongside our partners to help shape this future and combining innovation with execution and sustainability with long-term value. So thank you for joining today's webinar, and I look forward to any question.
Thank you, Francesca, so much for your presentation. Not to speak from the part of everybody, but it's complicated, right? I mean, the simple evolution of these hybrid PPAs and the multi-buyer perspective brings a level of complexity that you really need to know your game in order to profit from it, right?
That's absolutely right, Victor. So it's becoming quite a sophisticated market where both parties need to be creative in order to succeed and meet targets.
Yeah. So all the more reason for which corporate clients can be happy to take the advantage of your help not only on the services, but also on the advising them part. Uh, I would love to keep our conversation going, but we do have some questions from the audience, and I would like to prioritize those ones. So I'm going to start with the first one. Because you were mentioning Spain, so the question is that Spain appears to lead significantly in PPA capacity with over 11 gigawatts. What factors have driven this dominance compared to other Southern European countries like Italy or France?
Oh, that's a good question. Thank you. So clearly, Spain, compared to other peers in the South European cluster, can benefit from, high resources. So as we said, clearly there's high availability for wind and solar generation, as in other countries, but also from a regulatory perspective, as we said, we have a very positive and supporting regulatory framework. That's really helping in the development of renewable projects. It's to be mentioned that clearly from a land availability perspective, Spain is also very different from other countries as well, where you typically have we are able to develop smaller projects. So Spain is clearly very well positioned, and I think it's the most mature PPA market in Southern Europe for renewable PPAs. Southern Europe, and particularly Iberia, as we said, is exceptionally well positioned also for the development of hybrid assets for the same reason. Thanks clearly, as we said, to the unique combination of renewable sources, market PPA that is very mature, and also the growing great challenges, I would say. So together with being a first mover and most mature PPA market, then there are also some challenges that are to be taken into account and are growing. So Spain and especially offer abundant solar irradiation and increasingly complementary wind conditions that are creating a strong foundation for hybridizing these technologies that when paired with BESS, so battery energy storage systems, results in a more reliable and consistent generation profile, as we said. But perhaps, probably most importantly, the Iberian region is already experiencing as we said, the side effects of high renewable penetration and such as solar overproduction during peak hours and price cannibalization and increasing congestion in the grid. And this is where actually, as we said, BESS plays a transformative role. So batteries will enable clearly overcome some of these challenges as providing time shifting products, mitigating curtailment, enhancing grid stability, so supporting grid reliability, and also contributing to the ancillary services in the future that are not yet fully developed in the Spanish market, but there are some measures that are going to be implemented also to support new storage developments, such as the capacity market that is currently under consultation and is expected to be taking place in the coming years. So moreover, I think the Iberian regulatory environment is evolving in a ways that is increasingly recognizing the value of storage as well. While grid connection rights remain limited and often, oversubscribed, as we said, hybrid projects that can be really a good development in Spain, as we said, that integrate storage can make really better use of the existing infrastructure, accelerating the deployment without requiring new connections as well.
We have another question. I think it's slightly touches on the answer you were giving, but it doesn't have the market focus of a country. The question is, how are you seeing the value of hybrid PPAs versus the value of a wind standalone PPA? So how do you see the value in brackets? It says price of hybrid PPAs, for example, solar plus wind versus the value of wind standalone PPA.
There is no trick, right? So those are two sources that are put together in order to optimize. So I think the benefit of hybridization is not really on pricing, but it's also on, as we said, grid optimization. So you're basically having some cost efficiency because you are reducing the cost for securing, so for the grid, basically, and also increasing the reliability of the output of the renewable project you in the end you have in the market and you contract. So it's not just a matter of pricing, but it's clearly having two complementary sources that can optimize the grid. They can typically, alleviate the curtailments, because as we saw, I mean, solar is producing in hours with lower wind generation, and wind is producing during more baseload, I would say, but also there is a higher production from wind during the winter months. So that's actually have an effect on the output reliability. That especially it's very important for corporate off-takers and on the optimal grid usage as well.
All right. Questions are flooding in. So, first of all, thank you to our participants for typing their questions. And second of all, yeah, congratulations on provoking so many questions. I'm gonna try to feed you some other short ones because I would like to go through a lot of them, and we only have just a few minutes left. So, about multi-buyer PPAs. Do multi-buyer PPAs typically have the same PPA among the off-takers, or are individual negotiations usual?
It depends. So as we said, there are some key benefits of multi-buyers PPAs because, I mean, medium-sized company can access to a large-scale project they wouldn't typically being able to access because of mismatch in the consumption versus the generation of the project. As we said, there are like multi-buyers PPAs are also a tool for alliances or peers in the same industry to pull together the demand and trying to do some cost saving by working on framework agreements and to have facilitated terms. That is actually very good when it comes to first PPA movers. I mean, when a company is new to the PPA world and want to easily access or enter into this kind of transaction without having a previous experience. So typically you have standardized terms, a framework agreement, and you just clearly can have tailored terms when it comes to price, volume, term, and all of these terms. But multi-buyers PPA can also be different PPAs, meaning like you could aggregate on the same project different parties. What is clearly key when it comes to contracting a project through a multi-buyer PPA is for the off-takers. I think you need to be clearly conscious that a PPA are long-term commitments. They may not suit all of the buyers. There are other risks depending on the structure of the PPA that could change, but clearly in case of cross default clauses under the PPAs, there is some sort of risk that needs to be taken into account among the parties. And also, as we said, I mean, sometimes off-takers need to, compromise standard contract. But as we said, I mean, those can be quite flexible products. So it largely depends on whether the off-taker is an alliance, so they have terms that have been agreed, a common purpose, and sustainability targets that are shared, or if it's more like a multi-buyer PPA aggregating different off-takers under the same project. So in that case, probably some key features that need to be taken into account as competition rules and so on, but those can all be overcome.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think since we're on the multi-buyer PPAs, we have a question. I think it's rather similar, but maybe yeah, you find a different angle. So the question is: many mid-size off-takers find traditional PPAs too large or too complex to engage with. How does Lightsource BP multi-buyer PPA model help these companies access renewable energy? Yeah,
Yeah, I
flexibility,
think
affordability. Yeah.
yeah, it's a bit what we have already covered previously. So I mean, by having standard terms and potentially also having companies that get together in order to reduce the cost associated to the negotiation of the transaction, meaning legal, administrative costs, and do agree on standard terms, that can definitely facilitate the subscription of this kind of agreement. We have seen corporates being advised also by external advisors in the negotiation of the agreement. We clearly would be able to support them, but we're conscious that being also the generator, they may prefer to have an external advisor. So we do have our standard terms that we can definitely discuss, and we'll try to simplify this as much as we can. But PPAs are not a tool for everyone, and I think it's fair to say. So off-takers need to be committed and need to have, as we said, being ready to have a long-term commitment.
Yeah, clear. Thank you. And just one last quick one. I believe it's a quick one. Is there a minimum size for a PPA in Italy?
Good question. It depends, I guess. As we said, there is a transaction that needs to be considered in terms of effort to be negotiated on the off-taker side. On the generator side, there are projects of different sizes available in the market. Typically, Italian projects are smaller than renewable projects developed in the other countries. That's mainly due to land constraints, I would say. So it's really difficult to reply. I think it depends. It depends on the size of the project. I can only say that probably from a bankability perspective, typically renewable operators would be looking to contract at least 60-70% of the output expected to be generated by the project. So that said, the size of the PPA that typically generators are looking to offer in the market. But as we said, there are also other structures such as multi-bias PPA that can be put in place. So
yeah, the best answer is always it depends. The best answer for most complex questions.
It depends on also how much time you have to negotiate a PPA. So PPAs negotiation are typically very long, right? So I guess there is some scalability and optimization that needs to be taken into account.
Indeed. Francesca, you do have a few questions left, well, quite a few, but unfortunately we are out of time. So with respect to our attendees, I'm going to wrap the Q&A session. However, if you are one of those participants who have asked a question and you weren't given the answer in this session, please take a look at your screen, find Francesca's email, reach out to her, and her team will most surely reach out to you with an answer or with further comments. So I don't want to wrap this session up before letting you know that we do have these 3 upcoming events in Iberia, France, and Italy. You can definitely secure your place with a discount by using the discount code showed now on screen. And that being said, I promised I wouldn't keep you longer than 45 minutes. So this is the moment that I thank you once again for being here. Thank you so much, Francesca, for your wonderful presentation. And
everyone.
Thank you. And answering all the questions. And we'll see you on the next webinar, hopefully. Hope you enjoyed it. Have a great day. Enjoy. Bye.